So let's go ahead then and transition kind of just the last 10, 15 minutes here, kind of away from the specific movies and kind of the sci-fi culture, because I think it's just so interesting. We talked about this at the very beginning, that, I mean, you guys are both Division I football players. And 10, 15 years ago, you just didn't, people were just not so open about, I love Star Wars, I love this stuff. Was it a transition that you guys saw like growing up, or is this very much like a more recent development, you think, that just that type of those types of people, you can be so open about it, where in the past you kind of would like secretly you're watching Star Wars and like reading online, but then at football practice it's like, nah, F that. What's your guys' kind of thoughts on that? Again, is it something that you think has changed and you've seen it, or is it a more recent thing?
Well, I think for me personally, like I didn't start playing football really till 9th grade. So, my world was Star Wars, was Marvel, was DC, was all these different things. Mm-hmm. And getting introduced to this world, the world of athletics, the world of football, it was a bit of a jarring transition, because when I was in 9th grade, it was still kind of up in the air about how to feel about these things. A lot of people felt ambivalent. A lot of people didn't necessarily know what direction to take. Was this kind of a closet nerd thing, or was this premier pop culture? Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting, and it's been exciting to see, because now I can really be myself. And for the first 13, 14 years of my life, this is who I was, and this is who I still am. And now, I can kind of do that without fear of retribution, because a lot of people on our team, and a lot of people, in Carolina athletics who I've met, love these kinds of films. They love the Marvel, they love the Star Wars, they love all of it. And they, mm-hmm. We've created a kind of space where it's not bad to talk about these things. It's actually encouraged to kind of diversify your interests and make sure that you're representing the university, representing yourself as best the way you can. And the only way you can do that is by being yourself. So.
Absolutely. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, I've never been afraid to be fully into these movies, into anything in pop culture or nerd culture, whatever you want to call it. But I think over the past couple years, like we've talked about it with Marvel movies, that it's turned into from a niche superhero interest into this massive, large-scale interest. And I think things like that, things like Game of Thrones, which if you had told, like, I didn't have an interest in Game of Thrones when it first started, but then freshman year of college was when I really got into it. And if you had told me then that, like, maybe a couple years before, that I'd be into something about like the Middle Ages, medieval castles and knights and dragons, and like I've always loved Harry Potter, but I never was really into, like, that was something that people didn't necessarily deem cool back in the day. And now that it's this large pop culture phenomenon, like everybody's in on it, and if you're not in on it, you feel left out. And I think that's really kind of helped to make it more acceptable to talk about, I guess, and people not have to be ashamed about it.
And then, I mean, you guys, so you're senior, Zach, and then Jake, you're redshirt sophomore. So when you guys see, like, even the younger guys coming in, like the freshmen or the visitors on campus, are they even more immersed in this than even you guys were growing up, do you feel?
I don't think anyone's more immersed in it.
That's a challenge to Jake.
But no, I think especially we're a tight-knit team for sure. And, there's not a lot of, hate. There is no hate.
There'll be arguments in the locker room, like, 3 times a week about the Iron Man's more powerful than Captain America. Like,
I mean, you
people in each other's lockers yelling at each other. It's like I feel like on some teams they're arguing about like a rapper or like an NBA player versus another NBA player, and we're in there like Darth Vader would have killed like Iron Man, like just makes all kinds of things.
It's about being able to speak freely and about being able to be yourself, and that's what we do on our team. It's like. And like you said, every time you go into the locker room or if you go to the training table to eat, there's always something kind of related, at least tangentially, to Marvel or DC or Game of Thrones or something like that. So it's always cool to see that.
Now, Downton Abbey, maybe? No,
I haven't gotten into that. But
okay, no.
I don't know if that one's breached our fortress yet.
That's just fair. I'm too old for that. It's okay. You guys will get there eventually. British TV. It's all the rage. Let's go ahead then and talk about just what brought you guys to Carolina, because you guys have talked about how in the locker room you guys do just, there is that tight-knit, you guys do share a lot of the interests. Is that something that you guys noticed when you were joining the team, being recruited, everything like that?
So for myself, I was a preferred walk-on. So coming out of high school, it was really a lot of, like, I had talked to the coaches and they had told me that they wanted to have me if I could get into school. So one of the things that I really took into my recruiting process was asking myself, like, if football ended for me, if I had a career-ending injury or something like that, would I be at a place where I'm still happy? And for me, that answer was, like, I could have gone to a small school and played, and I had a couple offers from places like that, but I wanted to come here whether I was playing football or not. And luckily, I was able to play all 4 years of football and never have any injuries or have that question actually come into reality. But instead, I just was able to get the best of both worlds here, and I knew that's where I wanted to be.
And I think for me, I was a fairly well-known recruit.
I mean, he got verified on Twitter because of that.
But both my parents had graduated from UNC, so there was always kind of that there. And I was in Charlotte, I was only 2 hours away. And then coming here, I think, what's lost on recruits, and I guess what's discovered by recruits, is that when you come here, it's truly different. You hear about Carolina, and you hear about kind of the greatness of it, but if you haven't been here, you can't really appreciate it for what it was. And it's just about coming here and experiencing it. And then I'm utterly thankful for my experience here, and as I continue to grow here, I think it's been a phenomenal time for me. It's been a phenomenal time playing football, and I'm excited to kind of keep going and see where this goes.
And so, we've talked about the Star Wars topics, the Marvel, DC, just everything. Nerd back in the day used to be a very derogatory term. Now, people wear that as a badge of honor. You're like, oh, I love nerd culture. I mean, it's you don't even really see people describing things in that way anymore. So when you guys are talking about the locker room and just how you guys have so much fun talking about this stuff, the last 2 seasons have been rough for the team overall. Coaching transition going into next season, are you guys seeing that hey, everyone is just still, even though we've had some rough patches, we're still in this thing together? And do you think that's going to be kind of a key thing moving forward? I don't know
I'll
how much.
defer this one to Jake.
So yeah, since you're graduating, Zach, we'll come back to you in a second. But I mean, what are you seeing about that, Jake?
We are so much stronger because of what we've been through, I think, and the fact that we've continued to be as tight knit as we have, considering the trials and tribulations that we had, and now we have kind of a great head coach in Mack and kind of a great staff, and that they've kind of pulled us together even further to kind of further envelop us and further kind of develop us as not only athletes, not only as football players, but as great young men as well. I think looking forward to us, our experiences have made us stronger, and our personalities have made us stronger and made us stronger together. And having the coaching change, having Coach Brown with us now, and having the tremendous staff that he's brought along is only going to propel us to success. So.
I will say that from an outsider's perspective, like, I'm still connected with a bunch of the guys on the team, but mentioning like nerd culture or just anything extracurricular, like our podcast, or like Jake's working on a lot of different projects right now. I know a lot of the guys on the team are, but the staff is very encouraging from what I've heard of people pursuing things outside of football. Like, yes, football is a big focus, but previously that wasn't really the case. It was come over, do your work here, and then do whatever you want to do. But instead, they're partnering together right now and just really supporting their athletes in whatever they want to do.
And it's amazing. We have people that work on resumes with us at lunch. We have people that kind of connect with us, and kind of we had a speaker that Coach Brown brought in named Andy Dinkin, who is like a very kind of prominent member of Charlotte society in terms of the business side. And he's kind of linked up with all of us and kind of established connections. And the great thing about this staff is that they're encouraging us to be who we are.
You said Coach Hess listened to the podcast. Like,
yeah.
The strength
coach listened. And I had put out a short story in January, and he had read that as well. And Coach Brown's wife had actually also read the story as well.
Nice.
So, but the great thing, like Tamon Fox, he's an artist. And he's a brilliant artist. And we have another kid named Alex Nobles, who's also a talented painter. We have guys that do music. We have guys that love to read. We have guys that are interested in so many different things. And the coaching staff has, allowed us to be who we are and kind of helped us flourish in that regard. So that's been a tremendous thing for us.
Well, and it's so cool that, especially, I know this is not unique to Carolina, but we're recording this podcast live in a studio that you just have these resources here.
Absolutely.
Where you guys can just do it. So, Zach, let's go ahead and kind of wrap this thing up with you as far as my portion. I'll turn it over to John to see if he has any questions here in a second. But when you're looking back over your 4 years, what's kind of like some of the memories that you will always remember? And when you, I guess that's part number one. Part number two, when you're watching these Marvel movies or anything like that, is that something that you guys have done like as like a big like group, gone and all seen it together?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember, I think it was the Black Panther premiere. We had like 2 rows at Silver Spot down the street, and we all were going there together. So it's, I mean, the first part of the question, like obviously there's going to be memories of playing, and when everything, I mean, it sounds so cliche to say it, but like at the end of the day, what I'm going to remember is the people that I've been around, and the locker room times that we've had together, and just hanging out with my buddies. But I mean, obviously different things like beating Pitt on the last second touchdown, like that's going to be with me forever. But it's going to be the lifelong friendships and relationships that I've made.
Awesome. All right. Well, John, did you have anything for Zach and Jake here?
I guess last question would be, is Mack Brown a Marvel fan? Have we figured this out yet? Has he watched the movies or anything like that?
I'm not sure. I'll have to ask him. We've only talked.
Give him the 23 movie schedule.
Yeah.
Get him set up.
Yeah, we've only talked sparingly about Marvel, but I'll have to kind of pick his brain and see where he's at. So.
That'll be a topic for y'all's next podcast.
Have Coach Brown on the podcast. Let him talk.
That's it. All right, you guys. Well, look, really appreciate y'all taking the time
Thank you
to
for
talk
having
with
us.
us. No problem. Best of luck moving forward. For everyone that is not subscribed, inside the Fill Room. You guys were also interviewed by the ABC 11, was it? Who came in?
It was down in Charlotte over Christmas break.
WSOC.
Okay. I just saw that you guys are also, that they did an interview with you guys. So, I mean.
Just trying to build the brand, you know?
No. All right. Well, hey, again, thank you guys so much. We'll go ahead and call it a quits here. Everyone listening in here at Inside Carolina, we appreciate it. We'll talk with everyone again soon.